Oh yeah, I like that. Hey, it's Arik from Firearms Nation. I am back for the final part 4 episode on the firearms of World War II. And today I'm going to be talking about probably the most known weapon from World War II. However, before I get started, I wanted to introduce our Firearms Nation firearms expert, First Sergeant Bob Chenoweth. Bob, how you doing?
I'm great. Thank you for having me out here. Always a pleasure to come out and talk about guns.
It's always a pleasure to be out on the range. Beautiful day here in Homestead, Florida. People are shooting. It's very American.
It is.
But today we're going to be, actually before I get into that, I forgot to say, this is your first time in this series because you were interested in it. Remember, we got 3 other parts to this series. But Bob, just a little bit about you. You're a first sergeant in the U.S. Army, correct?
I was. I retired in 2008, served from 81 to 2008. Did 2 deployments, one with Military Police Battalion 03 to 05, and then a short one as a civilian contractor in 2012. And
wait, but that you served the first time in Iraq, correct?
Yes, right.
And the second time was in Kurdistan?
Was in Kurdistan, which is northern Iraq.
Northern, oh, that's right.
You don't call them Iraqis, they get very upset.
I got it. All right, so in the first 3 episodes in this 4-part series, I talked about different types of rifles, except for one was a carbine, correct? Right. And today we're going to talk about something different. Of course, I'm talking about the 1911. And this is came about from Browning, and I actually have a whole podcast episode where I talk about John Browning. It was a great book that came out, and I'll link it in the show notes below. But if you're interested, excuse me, if you're interested in that type of information, all about the Browning, please listen to that podcast. But anyways, I'm going to give this over to First Sergeant, and he's going to tell you all about the 1911.
All right, Arik, the 1911 was kind of born out of adversity. It came about as a result of the Army's experience in the Philippine insurrection against the Moros in the early 1900s. At that time, the Army was carrying a .38 caliber revolver, and when they were shooting the bad guys, they weren't staying shot. They were getting up and continuing to fight. They needed something bigger. So they came up with the .45 caliber pistol. The .45 caliber pistol shooting a 230 grain bullet, going about 850 feet per second, a big slow projectile that transfers energy. And there's always a debate of whether it's a big slow projectile versus a small fast projectile. But the bottom line is it worked. Now they did some things that they couldn't get away with today. In the testing trials, a guy named John Thompson, you might know him from the Thompson submachine gun, was a colonel in the Ordnance Corps. And they decided to test the effectiveness of this pistol, they were going to shoot horses, animals, goats, humans, not live humans though, they were shooting cadavers. And they found that there was much greater energy transfer with this .45. Again, you're not going to get away with that today. PETA would be all over you if you were shooting live animals. But bottom line, it worked, and they put John Browning on the job, and he came up with the 1911. As Arik said in his introduction, the 1911 is probably the most iconic American pistol that there is. It's still being manufactured today by several different companies. It's a simple, robust design. This particular model I have here is a U.S. government mark 1911 from World War I. It's a 5-digit serial number made in 1918. It still works just as well as the day it left the factory. The 1911 is a single action pistol, which means that the hammer has to be back in order for it to fire. And there's no way to decock it. The only way to make it safe is to put the safety on and your hammer is still cocked. To bring it into action, you're going to thumb the safety down and then pull the trigger. The gun's then going to cycle, cock the hammer again. As I said, if you want to put it back in the holster, to do that, you've got to put the safety on and then you can put it in the holster. There is no decock feature like shooters today are used to with Berettas, SIGs, HKs, okay? They didn't think that was needed back in the day. Shoots from a 7-round detachable magazine. This gun, the 1911, was in service from 1911 until 1985. During my active duty days in 81 to 84, I carried a Remington Rand World War II 1911 A1 pistol as my duty gun as a military policeman. The Army did not buy any 1911s after 1945. They simply rebuilt what they had and kept sending them through the rebuild process, and that 1911 series soldiered on into 1985 until it was replaced by the M9 Beretta.
All right, so finally I get to shoot a man gun, a 1911. Unlike previous videos, well, hopefully this is lubricated and ready to go, but the form factor and everything is very similar to a modern firearm that I normally shoot. So, got my magazine, insert the magazine, slide forward, safety off. Oh yeah, I like that.
That gun's 107 years old, Art.
Outstanding. Well, I can now punch my man card that I shot a 1911. I'll throw the cat out of the bag. I do not own a 1911. I did have a 45. I got rid of it. I'm all 9, but I do not have the man's gun, a 1911. Saving up enough money to get a custom one built because I think it's a lot of fun. It's a great gun to shoot, and I think every person should have that at least in their safe.
Yeah, it's a great gun. I mean, I cut my teeth on it. It's what I learned to shoot with. Yeah, I'll always have a soft spot in my heart for it.
And so we thank you all for watching this 4 parts. If you haven't seen the other 4 parts, go back and click on one of these buttons here to go see the part 1, part 2, or part 3. Watch them all. Watch all the content on Firearms Nation. I'll be back next time. Trying to get some gun reviews in, trying to pick up some guns for you guys to look at. And of course, in the future, I'll bring First Sergeant back. And thank you all for watching.
Thank you for having me out, Art. A pleasure. From an handshake.